Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I am very excited today to come to you with my pile of possibilities for middle grade March. Every year during March, I read a ton of middle grade books, and in a few of the years, I have been able to read a book a day or a total of 31 books by the end of the month. I am not setting that as a goal this year. Who knows if it'll happen? It might, because I might get close and then decide to just go for it. But that is not the plan starting out. So I have for you, for each of the 5 prompts for middle grade March, I have 3-ish recommendations of books that I have read. And I tried to think of books that I haven't been raving about in past middle grade March years. So some of these might have flown under the radar or ones that I haven't talked about in a while. And then I also have 5 books that I would like to read. So my total TBR, if you will, or pile of possibilities, my pop, will be 25 books plus the group read, so 26 in total. So just in case you forgot, the group read this year is Max and the House of Spies by Adam Gidwitz. I do have this checked out from the library currently. This is going to be a World War II historical fiction book about a young boy named Max, who is a Jewish German who takes the Kinder transport out of Germany into England. And it also is going to have like a magical realism, I guess, twist to it, or folklore twist, because he's going to have 2 unexpected traveling companions, a kobold named Berg and a Dibuk named Stein. So I'm not sure if those are Jewish folklore or German folklore. I'm excited to learn about that. And this does fit a few of the prompts. It has a name in the title, Max in the House of Spies, and it is historical fiction. So it does fit a couple of the prompts, but we are going to start with historical fiction because I love historical fiction and I have quite a few I could have chosen from my shelves, but these are the 5 that stand out to me the most at this point in time. There will be others in these stacks behind me. A lot of these books have overlap with the prompts, which is really fun because you can overlap and combine the prompts as much as you're able to or want to, or you could read one book for each of the different prompts. That's totally up to you. Have fun with it. Do what you want. So I will start with 3 books that I have read already and I really would recommend. The first is The Night Diary by Veera Hiranandani, and this is set in India when India and Pakistan split. So there's a bit of a war. It talks about religious conflict because I don't remember which now, but the Hindus were with one part of the country and the Muslims with the other. So there is that split, and it's all told in diary format about a young girl who lives on one side and has to move to the other side, but it's very dangerous, and talks about her family and just the differences, and talks about that time period when India and Pakistan split, which was so interesting to me because I'm not super familiar with that. Then we have one set during the Vietnam War, The Wednesday Wars by Gary D. Schmidt. Fabulous story. 1967, we follow Holling Hood, who's a 7th grader dealing with family issues and the war and having to learn Shakespeare. And he's not very thrilled about any of those things. So it's a fantastic read. I really love that one. And then this one, The Lost Year by Catherine Marsh, I also think is fantastic. This one talks about the famine in the Ukraine in the 1930s, which is another aspect of history that I'm just not as familiar with. This one also takes place, there's the present day timeline takes place during COVID. And while we're not too far removed from that, I do think it was handled really well in here. And a young boy's grandmother comes to live with him and he gets to learn her story. Fabulous. So good. And then the 5 that I really want to read, they're among the chunkier of the stacks here, so we'll see if I get to all of these. But my Patreon book club book for the month of March is going to be Escape from Aleppo by N.H. Sensai. And I'm really excited about this one because it's one that has been on my shelves for quite a long time and been on multiple middle grade March TBRs. I don't know how. It's actually probably not technically historical fiction, but it is a BIPOC author. So we'll go with that because it does take place in 2010. That's not technically historical, but it feels like it will be historical because we're talking about the Arab Spring and this girl and her family who have to flee and become refugees from Syria. So I do feel like it will be historical fiction, even though it may not technically qualify right now. I have plenty of others that will. So I also have Safia's War by Hiba Noor Khan. And this one is another World War II historical fiction. It takes place in Paris, where we follow a Muslim girl who has Jewish friends. So just a different twist on the Nazi occupation in Paris. I do think that that one's going to be really good as well. Then we have another World War II historical fiction, When We Flew Away, a novel of Anne Frank before the diaries. This takes place obviously leading up to the events that happened during when she wrote her book, The Diary of Anne Frank. So I'm excited about this. It's Alice Hoffman writing middle grade, and I don't think I've read any other of her middle grade. She does have one or two other middle grade books, but I just haven't read them. So I'm excited to read kind of a backstory of Anne Frank. Not sure how accurate it is or if it's just a reimagining. I don't know. Going away from World War II, then we have Where the Heart Should Be by Sarah Crossan. This is going to be about the Irish famine in 1846. So totally different time period. And this one is told in verse. So although it's chunkier, it is told in verse. So it will be a quick read. And I don't think I've read anything about the famine in Ireland. So eager to get to this one. I believe one of my patrons told me about that one first. And then I have a chonker, Amber and Clay, which is medieval, I believe. This is by Laura Amy Schlitz. And this is going to be a tale of friendship, improbable, indelible friendship that crosses the boundaries of class, of gender, and even of life and death. And I think half of this is told in verse and half is told in prose. So although it is chunky, again, it shouldn't take me too long, but I know Katie, one of my co-hosts for Middle Grade March, absolutely loves this book, and I know that I love Laura Amy Schlitz, so I'm very eager to read another book by her. The next stack of books I have is for a name in the title, and here's one of the ones where I'm kind of fudging the 3-book rule for my recommendations, because I'm going to do this whole series by Kate DiCamillo. This is the 3 Rancheros series. It starts with Raimi Nightingale, and then Beverly Right Here, and then Louisiana's Way Home. I love this series of these 3 friends, unlikely friends, and their backstories in each one. Oh my word, they're so fantastic. I think Louisiana's story is my favorite, but I really love all 3 of them, and their names are in the books. Katie Camillo is a queen of middle grade, and I just love so much of what she's written. Then a fantasy that I haven't heard too many people talk about is Peter Nimble and His Fantastic Eyes. This is by Jonathan Auxier. We did read Sweep, The Story of a Girl and Her Monster by Jonathan Auxier, and that got me started reading more and more of his books, and I really like them. This is a fun fantasy about Peter Nimble and something special about his eyes. I think it's a good story. And there is a sequel, a follow-up called Sophie Choir, which would also work for a name in the title as well. And then I couldn't resist adding Coyote Sunrise. I know this is one that I've talked about a lot in the past, the remarkable journey of Coyote Sunrise. I absolutely love this story about a girl and her dad taking a road trip on a bus and the found family that they make along the way. It deals a lot with grief, the loss of the mother in the story, and kind of not really feeling at home anywhere. But I love the father-daughter relationship. I love the road trip. I love so much about this story, and get your tissues ready if you decide to pick up this one. And then we have the 5 name in the title books that I hope to read this middle grade March. The first is an Avi book that I've heard so many people recommend in the past, The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. I've hesitated to pick it up because it does take place on a ship, but I think I've liked enough ship books now that I should give it a chance. This one takes place in 1832, so it's also historical fiction. And Charlotte Doyle is excited to return home to Rhode Island from her school in England during the summer of 1832. I'm eager to give it a try since so many people have recommended it. A fun one that I picked up last year but didn't get to is The Millicent Quibb School for the Etiquette of Young Ladies of Mad Science. This is by Kate McKinnon, and I think it's just going to be a humorous, fantastical, like school academy book. There are some fun illustrations throughout, quite a few illustrations throughout. And I don't really know what all it's about, but look at that fun map on the cover. Oh my goodness. And the naked hardcover is cute too. I think this will be a fun, like lighthearted book to throw in the midst of some historical fiction, which are usually a little more on the heavy side. It's fun to have something lighthearted. And I mean, they're all middle grade, so they're all going to have a swing up. They're all going to have a happy ending, if you will, or a uplifting ending in some way. But it's fun to have just like humor and light and silliness in there as well. I have another Gary D. Schmidt book that I would like to read, The Labors of Hercules Beale. Hercules Beale is obviously the kid's name. Herc Beale knows who he's named after, a mythical hero, but he's no superhero. He's the smallest kid in his class. So when his homeroom teacher at his new middle school gives him the assignment of duplicating the mythical Hercules' amazing feats in real life, he's skeptical. So how is he going to translate the work of Hercules into his own life? I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Juliet and the Shark by Kieran Millwood Hargrave is a book that was recommended in one of my middle grade March recommendations videos a few years ago, and ever since then has been on my radar. I've been really eager to read this. I know this is going to be about grief and sharks. I don't really know much more than that, but I remember the recommendation and I just know that it's going to be something that really speaks to me and probably that I'll need my tissues for. But if you tell me I'm going to need my tissues, I'm way more likely to be eager to read it. That's a buzzword for me, for sure. And finally, in the names category, I have The Many Assassinations of Samir, The Seller of Dreams by Daniel Nairi. I have read one Daniel Nairi book, his newest one, The Teacher of Nomadland, and I'm eager to read more. I think he writes really, really well. A mesmerizing adventure set along the enchanting Silk Road, where caravans of merchants carried spices, perfumes, furs, and in the case of one swindler named Samir, nothing but dreams. So I'm very excited to dive into this and see what it's all about. Hopefully I love it. Since I just talked about Daniel Nairi, I will again mention The Teacher of Nomadland. This is my first of the recommendations for the prompt of a book with siblings in it. And this one takes place in Iran during World War II, which is a totally different part of the world that I've read about for World War II historical fiction. But we follow this boy and his sister whose dad dies early in the story. Their mom has been out of the picture or passed away a long time ago. I don't remember. But they are now forced to kind of flee their home and figure out where to go and what to do so that they don't get separated. And they end up with a group of nomadic people who their dad used to teach. And so the little boy starts teaching as well in order to be able to stay with this group of people. It's a bit of a found family in just a different side of World War II than I've read before. And I really, really loved. It's a super slim novel, but packs a punch. It was a good one. A book that deals with foster care is Forever or a Long, Long Time by Kayla Carter. This was a doozy of a book. This wrecked my emotions. We follow Flora and Julian, who go from home to home, foster homes, for different reasons, experience a ton of trauma until they find their forever home. And that's what the story is about, and them processing and dealing with some of that past hurt and wanting to maybe look for their biological family, but also finding their forever home and what that looks like for them. Oh golly, this one was really hard to read. I hate seeing children get hurt in any way. Really difficult. And the final recommendation is this gorgeously covered Olivetti by Allie Millington. This is the story of a boy and a sentient typewriter, and the mother of this family goes missing, and this boy and his siblings and their typewriter and the dad, they all work together to try to figure out what happened to the mom. Where did she go? What's going on? I loved the family aspect of this. I thought it was really well done. It felt very real. They didn't always get along, but they all did end up working together, and I thought it was really good. And then the 5 sibling stories that I would like to read. I have a Julie Andrews Edwards book. I've only read Mandy by her, and I really love Mandy. And so this is the last of the really great wing doodles. This one is a classic, but I think it's going to be lighthearted and kind of adventurous and fun. We're following Ben, Tom, and Lindy, who have never heard of a wang doodle until they meet the brilliant Professor Savant. He tells them all about the wise magical creatures who disappeared to another land because people stopped believing in them. And when the professor invites them on a quest to find the last of the really great wang doodles, they can't resist. So again, I feel like it's going to be on the sillier side of things, but I think it would be a nice book to break up some of the heavier reads. Then we have an Anne Blankman book, The Blackbird Girls. This one actually has multiple timelines, 3 different girls, Valentina and Oksana in 1986 during Chernobyl crisis, and Rivka in 1941. This story shows that hatred, intolerance, and oppression are no match for the power of true friendship. Love it. I've heard really good things about this one, and I'm eager to try an Anne Blankman book. I have another book by Avi, Sophia's War, A Tale of the Revolutions. Sophia Calderwood's beloved brother, William, is being held on a gruesome British prison ship. Horrified by the atrocities she sees there, Sophia resolves to avenge his brutal treatment and help advance the patriot cause. So I'm not sure if the brother-sister are going to be in the same place in this one, but it is about a girl joining the resistance in order to avenge or help her brother in some way. So Sophia's War. Excited for that one. Another book that has been on multiple TBRs is Stella by Starlight by Sharon M. Draper. This is going to be a book set in the segregated South in North Carolina. And Stella and her little brother see something they're never supposed to see. And her community, her world is upended as she decides to fight fire with fire and learns that ashes don't necessarily signify an end. I think this is going to be a really difficult read, but also really good. I've read quite a few Sharon M. Draper books and I really love her writing, so I'm eager to read this one. And then one of my favorite YA authors is Ruta Sepetys. I love her young adult historical fiction. This is her stepping the toe into middle grade. I do think it's kind of a crossover, upper middle grade, lower YA maybe. She co-writes this with Steve Shankin, who has quite a few nonfiction middle grade books. And this is about a brother and sister whose mother goes missing at Bletchley Park. And she works at Bletchley Park, so they kind of live there. And so that's going to be code breaking and them, the brother and sister coming together to try to find out what happened to their mother. And I think the older brother is 19 years old, which is why it's a crossover book for me, because 19 is a little old for a middle grade story, but the younger sister is more middle grade age. So hopefully I get to quite a few of those sibling books. The next stack of books I have is books by BIPOC authors. So I have quite a few that I've read. Again, I'm breaking the rules by putting 3 books by the same author. They're all in the same series. This is Lisa Klein Ransom and her, I don't know the name of the series if it has one, but it starts with Finding Langston and then Leaving Lyman and then Being Clem. And this series is about 3 boys from the same class. In Finding Langston, he's the new kid in school. And Langston, struggling fitting in at school, is being bullied and finds solace in the library, in particular in the poetry of Langston Hughes, which is super cool. Leaving Lyman follows his bully. So Langston is being bullied by Lyman. And in this one, we learn Lyman's story and why he is the way he is. And you really come to understand him. And this one, oof, made me cry. So good. And then Clem is another friend of theirs in this classroom. And we learn Clem's story in Being Clem. So a fantastic series. I don't think I've had a mystery in the mix yet. So we have The Parker Inheritance by Varian Johnson. So our main character, Candace, finds a letter in her attic addressed to her grandmother, who kind of left the town in shame or with some kind of scandal years and years ago. The letter describes a young woman, an injustice that happened decades ago. And then there's a mystery about who wrote this letter and what is it all about. And so these 2 friends decide they're going to figure out what happened all these years ago. And it impacts the whole town. So it was a really good mystery. Another book in verse by a BIPOC author is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. I love this book so much. This was my first Jasmine Warga book, and I think I've read all of her books, maybe. But this is a book in verse about a young girl who comes to America from Syria, and it's told in verse, the refugee story, and finding home here while being sad about leaving her home in Syria, and what she loves about it there, and how hard it is to create a new home here. Beautiful story. So well done. I love a book in verse. My favorite way to read a book in verse is to listen to the audio while I'm reading, because poetry can be so visual at times, but it also is so cool to hear it being spoken to you. Love Other Words for Home. And then I do have 5 books by BIPOC authors. Again, I had a hard time narrowing these down, but I decided to go with March Forward Girl by Melba Patillo Beals. I loved Warriors Don't Cry, even though it was so difficult to read about the Little Rock 9, the 9 high school students that when schools were supposed to be desegregated, they went to school and fought battles daily to be at school. There's a prequel to that story of how did Melba become that girl who could stand up and go to school every day in the midst of being treated so incredibly horribly, not just bullied, like beyond bullying. It was awful. I'm just really excited to kind of learn about her childhood a little more and her home life and kind of how did she get to the point where she could be so strong as a high schooler. Dear Justice would be another one that could fit for name in the title. This is the sequel to Dear Martin by Nick Stone. And Dear Martin is a story of a high school boy writing letters to Martin Luther King Jr. to help process. And this one, the little blurb at the top just says, Dear Justice, how did you do it? We grew up in the same area, went to the same elementary, middle school, even had a class or two together. Why did we turn out so different? I don't remember who Justice is, but I know this is going to be along the same lines, epistolary of a young boy. I think Justice is another boy, maybe a year or two older than Kwan, the author of these stories. I'm not really sure, but I know this is going to be heavy hitting, and I'm eager to read this one. Another sequel that actually will finish out a series. I didn't know they were making another sequel to this. This is part of the Track series by Jason Reynolds, and it's Coach. The Track series follows these 4 kids on a community track team: Ghost, Patina, Sunny, and Lou. And Coach is their coach, obviously, and this is going to be his story. I love Coach and the other 4 books. I actually love the Track series. If you haven't yet read Ghost, read Ghost, and you see if you can stop reading the series because they're so fantastic. I really, really love them. And so I'm eager to finish up this series by reading Coach. It's so good. Kwame Alexander has a book, The Door of No Return. I'm pretty sure this is middle grade. It may be YA. It's another book told in verse. Kwame Alexander has written quite a few middle grade books. A history unknown will replay itself. We must tell the boy what he needs to know. One night is all it takes to transform a life. As his world turns upside down, Kofi ends up on a harrowing journey that steals him away from everything he loves. An epic and unforgettable tale of adventure, family, betrayal, and bravery. I have enjoyed a couple other Kwame Alexander books, so I'm very excited to try this one. And then one more written in verse. I kind of went with a lot of written in verse books, apparently. But we have Mariko Nagai as a Chinese author. This is Under the Broken Sky. And I think we follow a brother and sister. So this would also fit the siblings prompt. And historical. 12-year-old Natsu and her family live in a quiet life in Manchuria near the border of the Soviet Union. But the life they've known begins to unravel when her father is conscripted by the Japanese army. And Natsu and her little sister Asa are left orphaned and destitute. And in a desperate move to keep her sister alive, she sells Asa to a Russian couple following the 1945 Soviet occupation. Holy moly. The journey to redemption for Natsu's broken family is rife with struggles, but she's tenacious and will stop at nothing to get her sister back. I forgot that's what that was about. Oh my goodness, I'm very eager to read this one. So it's set in China during World War II, Japanese occupation. Oh my goodness. Another one that's probably going to make me cry. And finally, we have some books with books on the cover. I have 3 here to talk about first. I have Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. This is a very relevant topic. Again, I feel like it's an always relevant topic, but we've heard a lot about book banning in the last year or so. But in this one, 3 middle schoolers are getting really frustrated with parents trying to ban books from their library, and they do something about it. It's a fabulous read, and I just really love Alan Gratz. This is different from some of his other historical fiction books, but I do think it's really well told and such a good story. I would also recommend A Kind of Paradise by Amy Rebecca Tan, a fabulous, have I said fabulous so many times? In this one, we follow a middle schooler who gets in trouble and has to do some community service hours at the library. And through the story, she just learns why libraries are important and comes to love her library in a way that she never had before. So good. The final recommendation for this video is The Length of a String by Alyssa Brent Wiseman. This has a big book on the cover right here. In this one, we follow a Black girl who's either adopted or fostered into a Jewish family in Baltimore. Imani knows exactly what she wants as her big bat mitzvah gift: to find her birth parents. She feels really awkward talking to her parents about that. But then she discovers an old journal amongst her great-grandmother's books. It's Anna's diary from 1941, the year she was 12, and fled Nazi-occupied Luxembourg alone. And so she kind of relates to this great-grandmother from her adoptive family, and as she reads her story. So good. And then 5 other books that have books on the cover. First, we have another mystery, The Book Scavenger. Obviously, there's books all over this one. This is by Jennifer Chambliss Burtman. This one kind of reminds me of The Mysterious Benedict Society or Mr. Lemoncello's library, where there's like a game and puzzles to solve throughout it. 12-year-old Emily is on the move again. Her family is relocating to San Francisco, home of her literary idol, Garrison Griswold, creator of Book Scavenger, a game where books are hidden and clues to find them are revealed through puzzles. But Emily soon learns that Griswold has been attacked, derailing the launch of his epic new game, and she's going to do something about it. So, sounds like a lot of fun. Games, puzzles, mystery. I'm here for it. Speaking of mystery, Aggie Morton Mystery Queen, The Body Under the Piano by Martha Jocelyn. She's holding a book in her hands right there, but also it has a name in the title, which is kind of fun. Aggie Morton lives in the English seaside town of Torquay in 1902. Highly inventive and deeply shy, she is mourning the death of her beloved father, developed what her mother calls a morbid preoccupation. Filled with mystery and excitement, unforgettable characters, and several helpings of tea and sweets, The Body Under the Piano is the delightful and thrilling first book in a series about being brave, finding your voice, embracing the unexpected, and cracking the case. Sounds like fun. A newer book that just came out last year, The Library of Unruly Treasures by Jean Birdsall. She wrote The Penderwicks, which would be another series to read if you're looking for siblings stories. The Penderwicks is fantastic. And this is her newest one. So we follow Gwen, who her parents are kind of awful, and she's shipped off to stay with her Uncle Matthew, who she's never met before, for 2 weeks. But she's not sad about it, and he ends up having a cute little dog named Pumpkin. Things take a turn for the weird when Gwen makes a discovery in the local library, a discovery that involves tiny creatures with wings. And no, they're not birds. They're called Laduken. But why can only Gwen and the youngest children gathered for the story see them? I'm not sure, but sounds like it's going to be a cute story. And then just for fun, I threw this in the pile. There are some books right here. This is a princess swap, and I've not heard great things about this series by Kim Bussing, but I do think I'm interested in trying at least this first one. This is going to be a combo story of Belle and Cinderella. So Cinderella and the Beast, Beauty and the Glass Slipper. So it's going to mix up their stories a little bit. Sounds like it should be fun. And finally, for one that could fit for historical fiction as well, The Little Girl's Holding a Book, Words on Fire by Jennifer A. Nielsen. A little girl in Lithuania, Audra, always avoids the occupying Russian soldiers who insist that everyone must become Russian. They have banned Lithuanian books, religion, culture, and even the language, but Audra knows her parents are involved in something secret and perilous. When the soldiers arrive abruptly at their door, Audra's parents insist that she flee, taking with her an important package and instructions for where to deliver it. But escape means abandoning her parents to a terrible fate. What is she going to do? I'm excited. I've read a couple Jennifer A. Nielsen books and really like them. So I have quite a few, as usual, middle grade books on my pile. And as I start to see other people talking about their lists, I will probably add more. But these are 25 books from my shelves that I would love to try to get to this year. So they're going to live probably in front of other books here. So I see them all the time in front of my face so that I can just pick them up and try to find them on Libby and all of that jazz. We'll see what I actually get to. I'm very excited. I hope you are excited about Middle Grade March as well. Just a reminder, we do have shirts like this available on our Middle Grade March shop on Etsy. The link will be down below. This is our Places shirt. So it says Narnia, Neverland, Oz, Hogwarts, Terabithia, and Wonderland. And you could get it in multiple colors. We also have one with girls' names on it and authors, popular middle grade authors, as well as a lot of other fun merch available to you and the Middle Grade March merch shop on Etsy. I can't wait to see what you're excited to read in the month of March. It's the best time of year. Thank you so much for watching and spending a few minutes of your day with me. And I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.